Hey everyone, it's Matt with Surf City TCG. I'm back with my series on the best EDH cards by color and category. If you didn't catch the previous video in this series, which was also the first video, I'll go ahead and link that here. That was the top 20 white removal spells, and today we're moving on to blue, so the top 20 blue removal spells. So how do I define removal? Typically I'm looking at single target spells, although occasionally there'll be a multi-target. However, I'm going to do a separate category for board wipes or sweepers, so I'm trying to keep those relatively distinct. To start, let's go over my selection criteria, and I should also note that these selections will be typically for bracket 3. I do specialize in top of the line, fully optimized bracket 3 decks. That will be the basis of all of my selections here. Aside from that, here are the 6 main points that I looked at when making this list. Number 1, universality. Is this card a good fit in many decks? Is it generically good, or does it rely on a specific commander or a specific color identity to be good? Number 2, flexibility. Similar to universality, but more about the situations in which the card works versus the fit in decks. So if a card works in many situations or can target many different things, like if a removal spell can target multiple things versus only a single target, it did get bonus points. That doesn't mean that spells that have only a single target can't be high in the list, but it does mean that spells that can target multiple card types do get a bonus. And then also under flexibility, if a spell has different options in terms of how you can cast it, so Fire Blast, for example, you can pay the full cost for it, or you can sacrifice 2 mountains, so that option does give it bonus points. Now, spoiler alert, Fire Blast won't be on the list today, but just an example. Mana cost. This one's pretty obvious. Cheaper is better, lower is better. When I look at my deck curves and when I look at others' deck curves, I tend to see consistently a glut of spells at the 3 and 4 mana slots. So removal spells have to be really good to compete at those slots. Again, that doesn't mean they can't exist there, but I do give bonus points if a spell is very cheap to cast, like 1 or 2 mana or even 0. Ease to cast. So we're talking about pip intensivity here. So a double white removal spell is obviously worse than one that costs a generic mana and a white. It's just harder to play that in decks, even with an optimized mana base. And then if a spell has additional costs, like you must discard a card in addition to paying the cost or anything like that, that's a consideration. As are alternate costs. A card like Submerge can be cast for free if you meet certain conditions. Frequency of use. As many of you know, I'm a prolific deck builder. I have hundreds and hundreds of decks on my Mox field. I aggregated the data from all of the decks that I've built over the past couple years and collected some data in terms of how frequently am I actually using all of spells. And lastly, relative availability. I did consider things like actual cost of the card. It wasn't a huge factor in me determining whether it might be one of the best options in the color, but if a card is on the reserve list or is just prohibitively expensive, I might have skipped over it for that reason. Without further ado, let's jump into the list. I want to start off with an honorable mention. This card's new from Final Fantasy, so I haven't really had enough time to playtest it yet, but Observe Stasis is 4 mana, 3 and a blue, for an enchantment aura. It's got Flash, enchant creature an opponent controls. When this aura enters, remove enchanted creature from combat, then draw a card for each tapped creature its controller controls. Enchanted creature loses all abilities and can't attack or block. So this is a really interesting effect, and one that we haven't really seen before as far as I know, in that it can remove a creature from combat, but it doesn't untap it. So it's not like Maze of Ith, where the creature ends up being untapped. Creature remains tapped, it's just out of combat now, and then it loses all abilities and it can't attack or block on future turns. It does untap, but that doesn't matter as far as this card is concerned, because you're going to get its effect right away, which is that you'll draw at least one card, assuming that creature was tapped. If the creature had Vigilance, then you're kind of out of luck, but that creature will remain tapped. You're going to draw at least one card, if not more cards, depending on how many tapped creatures they have, and then that creature is kind of done. As long as this aura is on it, it can't attack or block, it has no abilities, so it's just going to kind of sit there and do nothing until they're able to remove this aura, or sacrifice the creature, or something, right? So effects like this are really strong. We're going to see some more on the list today, but they can be a little bit oppressive, so play with caution. I'd say this looks to be a pretty good card. I don't know how many cards you're going to draw on average. Probably, I'm guessing it's going to be 2 most of the time. You know, there will be some times where this is a total blowout. They're sending a bunch of tokens. They don't even all have to be attacking you. If they just swing out with their board and you neutralize one creature, you're getting to draw a card for all the things that this affects. But it's really going to depend, and I'm very curious to see how this plays out. And for now, it's going to be an honorable mention. Starting us off at number 20. It's actually 2 cards. These are very similar effects, so I just grouped them together. Unable to Scream is blue mana for an enchantment aura. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature loses all abilities and is a toy artifact with base power and toughness 0-2, in addition to its other types, and some text that is relevant to the set mechanic, but probably won't come up in Commander games. As long as enchanted creature is face down, it can't be turned face up. So you can pretty much ignore that part and focus on the first part, which blanks a creature completely. It turns it into a 0-2 toy, and that's it. It loses all abilities. It can still attack or block, but, people aren't going to want to block it when you're neutralizing a creature or even commander that is very threatening. So, the powerful thing about these cards is they can knock out someone's commander, and there's not really anything that they can do about it potentially, unless they have a way to sacrifice it or they have a way to destroy this aura. Sometimes a different player, if they're feeling generous, might agree to block it, but in general, they're kind of stuck with one of these things on it. And for that reason, I'd, again, as I mentioned on the last card, play these with a little bit of caution, because they can feel pretty mean in games. But sometimes, you're playing a game to win, and sometimes this is what you need to stop some archenemy commander that's really messing you up. So Witness Protection, very similar effect, 1 mana, enchantment aura. Enchanted creature loses all abilities and is a green and white citizen creature with base power and toughness 1-1, named Legitimate Business Person. So pretty funny version of this kind of effect. This one makes it a 1-1 that could be better, could be worse, depending. I'd say in general, Unable to Scream is going to be a little bit better because it makes it a 0-2, and then they don't have a pesky 1-1 that they could, say, Skull Clamp, for example. On the flip side, Unable to Scream makes it into an artifact, which is also potentially easier for them to sacrifice or interact with somehow. They have their trade-offs, but both of these are phenomenal cards, especially in a budget deck or to deal with a really problematic commander in your pod or at your LGS or something. These are great options. Number 19. Curse of the Swine. X and double blue for sorcery. Exile X target creatures. For each creature exiled this way, its controller creates a 2/2 green boar creature token. So this is a really cool spell. It's from Theros originally, which makes sense because it's got this mythology theme with Circe turning Odysseus and crew into pigs on some island, I forget, in the Odyssey. This is definitely calling back to that, and I think that's cool. But aside from flavor, I mean, this is an ultra powerful effect. This is the kind of card this is a budget card, like it's, definitely under $1, but every time I see it in games, I'm like, man, that card was strong. It has such an impact on the game. I was about to say game changer, but, can't use that terminology anymore without having additional meaning. But yeah, just being able to exile a bunch of threats, like you pump 4 mana into this, and it's just like, man, that game feels so different after that. Turn the 4 hugest threats, exiled them, so they're no graveyard shenanigans, unless they have a sack outlet, of course. Like, this is such a powerful card. It's the kind of card I always end up cutting at the last minute, but then when people play it against me, it always feels like ultra impactful. When I've played this, it's the kind of card where it never sits in my hand. It's always one of the first spells I want to cast, and whenever a card feels like that, it's powerful and it's good. So I'd say, even though this is an inexpensive option, it's very strong and it can do a lot, and it can really alter the course of a game, which what more can you ask? I guess I could ask for it to be instant speed, but that would be super OP. So just play a bunch of flash enablers like I do. Easy. Number 18, Venser Shaper Savant, 4 mana, 2 and double blue for a 2/2 human wizard. Venser's got flash, and when he enters the battlefield, return target spell or permanent to its owner's hand. That's it. Very simple text, but does so much. Venser can return any permanent, does not say non-land, notably, which is very meaningful, and he could return spells. When something says it can target a spell, usually you see that on a card like Counterspell, which is counter target spell. But in this case, Venser can actually enter and bounce a spell off the stack to its owner's hand. And that's a very unique effect. We don't get that sort of thing very often. Sink into Super is a similar thing. It can bounce a permanent or a spell, and it's very, very strong. And the fact that Venser can hit land is a big deal, because I'm going to keep mentioning it because it's broken AF. There are lands in the format, Glacial Chasm's a key example here, because, that lands player is sitting pretty, thinking like, oh, I can't take any damage, I'm safe behind this land. No one plays interaction for land, and Venser can come in and be like, bounce. Okay, well, you can just replay it next turn, right? Well, yeah, but that mono green player is about to Crater Hoof and smash the hell out of you because he's been chomping at the bit to get at you and couldn't because of all that ice. And now Venser's like, all right, see you land. You can come back. Another cool thing I've done with this, there's that mono blue player sitting back with their 2 blue mana up, smug expression situation like, just try it. Like, I've got 2 blue up, you know, I'll do it. I've had Venser in a situation like this and been like, hey, okay, pre-combat, I'm gonna go ahead and bounce one of your islands. And they're like, wait, what? That thing can target land? Okay, well, I guess I'll float a blue. Okay, well, I'm gonna move to combat. You gonna use that blue floating you got there, buddy? No, I don't think so. I'll let it go away. Okay, no attacks. Second main, cast my big haymaker. Any responses? Oh, like, I would have had a response, but out, you know, Venser can do that kind of thing, and that is strong. This isn't even to mention blink shenanigans. If you have a way to flicker Venser, especially at instant speed, then you can do it whenever you need, again, for cheap. Reanimation, double ETBs. He's a wizard, so he's a wizard Harry, so you get all the synergies related to that. A really powerful card that really overperforms. Seems like a relatively humble effect, but really quite powerful. Moving on to number 17, one of my favorite cards. I love this guy. Thieving Skydiver, 1 in a blue for a 2/1 Merfolk Rogue with flying. He has Kicker X. X cannot be 0. You may pay an additional X as you cast the spell. When Thieving Skydiver enters, if it was kicked, gain control of target artifact with mana value X or less. If that artifact is an equipment, attach it to Thieving Skydiver. So he comes in and you get to steal something, depending on how much you pumped into X. But you know what's a great target to steal with Thieving Skydiver? Well, Skull Clamp, sure, that's a great one. But you know what else is great? Soul Ring. Does anyone play that card? So, opponent has a Soul Ring. Thieving Skydiver reads 3 mana, 2 in a blue, 2/1 flying, destroy target Soul Ring. You get a Soul Ring. Is that good for 3 mana? Yeah, I think it is. And do they get their Soul Ring back if Thieving Skydiver dies, though? No. Well, when did they get it back? Well, if they play their own Thieving Skydiver, they could get it back, or they get it back when they die, goes back to the owner, but otherwise, it's yours. You stole it fair and square, and now you've got a Soul Ring and they don't. Now, to be fair, you probably have a tapped Soul Ring because, first of all, who doesn't use a Soul Ring on their turn? But even if they didn't, they're going to tap in response to this. But you know what? I will pay 3 mana to destroy a Soul Ring and get my own Worn Power Stone. And that's how you're going to use this most often. Like, I rarely, if ever, use it to steal an equipment. I mean, that's cool if you do it and you get to equip it to him, but like, really, you just want to steal a Soul Ring and destroy their Soul Ring. Such a powerful combination of abilities. This is a real overperformer. This card is phenomenal. You know, people are going to get salty about you stealing their stuff, but whatever. What are you going to do? You're playing blue. You got to do the things that blue does. And this is one of the things that blue does. Theft. Number 16, Run Away Together. 2 mana, 1 in a blue for an instant. Choose 2 target creatures controlled by different players. Return those creatures to their owner's hands. This is the Bloomborough art with the like storybook look. I absolutely love this art. Kudos to the artist. I think he did a phenomenal job capturing that fantasy fairy tale look, and I think it's so cool. I love the art style of Bloomborough. I think they really nailed it. And this card is so good. This is another card that I end up cutting too often, and then when people play it against me or I see them play it just in games, I'm like, holy moly, that card was so strong right there. You know, 2 mana to bounce 2 of the like potentially the best creatures on the board. Unless like there's one player that's just completely dominating, then this isn't ideal. Although a lot of times you're going to use it to save one of your creatures and bounce one of theirs, and that's great too. But I'd say the best way to play this is to bounce 2 of the hugest threats from the board. They can be commanders, like who cares? They goes back to their hand, but whatever. If you're bouncing 2 6-mana creatures with this, that's getting 12 mana worth of value for 2. Talk about a tempo swing. This card seems like it always works. Like there's always a spot for it. I really highly value bounce spells. I think they're underrated and underplayed in Commander. Tempo is such a huge thing. Games of Magic are getting really fast, and cards like this that can get you a lot of value for a really low amount of mana perform so much better than they look. So try it out. This card, I should play it more, honestly. This card always seems to be really good. You know, and there's some bias with regard to this because like a lot of times when you see an effect like this happen, it's happening because they're in the scenario where it's good, and you're not seeing it the times where it's stuck in their hand and not doing as well. So I want to acknowledge that like this always appears to be good because usually when it's being cast is an ideal time for it being cast. But I think in general you're going to find uses for this, and it's just a very powerful effect for a low amount of mana, and you're getting potentially a lot of mana worth of value, and getting a discount like that is how you win games of Magic. Mana advantage. Number 15, Agent of Treachery. 7 mana, 5 and double blue for a 2/3 human rogue. When Agent of Treachery enters the battlefield, gain control of target permanent. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 3 or more permanents you don't own, draw 3 cards. Incredible and powerful effect here. 7 mana is obviously a steep cost, but the impact of this card cannot be ignored. First of all, you get to steal any permanent. It does not say non-land, so you can steal someone's land if you so desire, and that very well might be the right call, especially if there's a land that is really having a powerful impact on the game. Think something like a Field of the Dead, Cabal Coffers, Waters, Gaia's Cradle, Glacial Chasm, any of these. You can just gain control of it just like that. And then the second ability is mainly Gravy, but when it comes up big because that's a very powerful ability. And typically you're not going to be stealing tons of stuff from everyone. I mean, you could combo this with something like a Blatant Thievery, where you're going to be stealing one thing from each player, and therefore you're going to be able to get this comboed off. But the real power of that second ability is if you're playing a blink deck. Go ahead to help your opponents if you have a Displacer Kitten in play. Turns every spell you cast basically into I steal one of your things, and then you start drawing 3 cards at the end of each turn. So pretty scary stuff. Actually, there's a pretty nasty game I played with my Hashiton deck before I downgraded it. I had an Osier Tack in play, the one that triples tokens, creature tokens, and I discarded the Agent of Treachery and cheated it into play with Hashiton. And you might be getting where this is going. I had 3 Agent of Treachery tokens enter the battlefield, got to steal 3 different permanents from whoever I wanted, and then at the end of the turn, I drew not 3, but 9 cards because I had 3 Agents of Treachery, and all 3 of them triggered to draw me 3 cards apiece. So pretty gross stuff. That's a particularly egregious example, but that's the kind of power that this card has. I don't think you're playing this in just like a general blue deck, unless maybe you're also playing green and therefore have access to a lot of mana. Typically, you're going to be playing this in a deck that cares about blinking or cares about reanimating things, so you're cheating this into play some way or another. I could see this being the top end of a human tribal deck or something, but typically you're going to see this in a deck where it's not only doing a nasty thing once, but probably going to be doing it multiple times, and not a card you want to see land across the table from you. Just a really, really powerful card. Number 14, Amphibian Downpour. 3 mana, 2 and a blue for an enchantment aura, but it's got flash, so you can play it like an instant, and it's got Storm. When you cast the spell, copy it for each spell cast before this turn. You can choose new targets for the copies, and the copies become tokens. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature loses all abilities and is a blue frog creature with base power and toughness 1/1. So why is this number 14 on the list when Unable to Scream and Witness Protection were number 20 and they cost 1/3 of the mana? Well, guess what? This one's, first of all, it's got flash, which is incredible. And second, it's got Storm. Wow. And careful readers will note that Storm does not say copy it for each spell you've cast before this turn. That word you is not there. And the fact that this spell has Storm and has Flash is an ultra powerful combination, because what this means is that you can wait until one opponent has a big turn. Let's say they play a Jessica's Will and they hit, 1 or 2 other things. They end up casting 5 spells on their turn. Or there's a counter war. Someone tries to remove someone's creature and they have a counter and they have a counter back. And that was all at the end of their turn where they also did a couple things. All of a sudden you come in after all that and say, hey, guess what, guys? Amphibian Downpour. I'm going to make 9 copies of this spell and turn everything on the board into frogs. Cool? Well, too bad it's happening. Really just ultra powerful game warping sort of effect here, and not very much that can be done about it unless they have a stifle or some sort of counter of a triggered ability or activated ability. They're not going to be able to stop the storm. They can counter one of the spells, but you'll still get all of the other copies, and there's not anything that they can do about it. The best counter to this card is some kind of mass enchantment board wipe, but how frequently do you see those? It's not crazy to see one, maybe once in a game, but if they don't have it right then, this could disable a ton of commanders. This could just be a tremendous one-sided board wipe, and as a 3 mana instant, that's just absolutely incredible. And that's not even to mention any synergy you might get from having 8 or 9 or however many enchantments entering the battlefield under your control. All of a sudden, you get the devotion for all these, if you have a Nykthos. You get all of a bunch of ETB triggers, any constellation effects you have, stuff like Setessan Champion or Eidolon of Blossoms. You're going to draw a card for every single one of these copies that enters. Yeah, if you have an Ancestral Mask, all of a sudden they have a bunch of 1/1s and you have a million. So ultra powerful card. Can be too powerful, I'd say, for some pods or some decks. So be careful where you play this, because I've been in games where people have disabled my commander and I couldn't do anything about it, or I've seen it happen to someone else and it's pretty feels bad. So just use this with caution, and if you do use it, be careful about targeting commanders, because sometimes that'll just take someone straight out of the game, and if that's not the effect you want or the kind of game you're looking for, be wary before packing a spell like this. But it is extremely good. Speaking of nasty cards that you should potentially consider not playing but are extremely good, Cyber Conversion. This goodie is from Doctor Who. It's 2 blue mana for an instant, and it says turn target creature face down. It's a 2/2 Cyberman artifact creature. What's a Cyberman? I don't know. I don't watch Doctor Who, but it doesn't matter is the answer. And the reason it doesn't matter is it's just a 2/2. And do they have synergy for Cyberman in their deck? I would be shocked if they did. You know, I guess if you're up against one of those Doctor Who villain commanders like Davros or something, maybe could potentially be a liability if they have some sort of synergy for this. But in general, what this is doing is it's turning any creature you want, including someone's commander, into a vanilla 2/2. Now, do they have a way to flip it face up? They do not. Unless what you targeted has morph or something like that, unless it has its own way to flip itself, or unless they can find some kind of blink effect, in which case it will flip back to the front side. If they blink it, then they're stuck with a 2/2 Cyberman. And if you targeted someone's archenemy commander, no one at the table is going to mind taking 2 damage over and over in order to keep that commander imprisoned under this effect, so to speak. And this is not an aura like Amphibian Downpour or Witness Protection, where if they find some sort of enchantment removal, they can get rid of it. The only way to get their creature back is to flip it somehow by blinking it, to have it die, or, to bounce it in some other way. And that's just such a negative tempo swing for them. This is an ultra powerful effect. The fact that it's instant speed is nuts. This is just a really good card. I would say the only reason I don't play it more is because it's too good and people just aren't equipped to handle it and don't like creating game situations like that if I can avoid it. But this card is extremely good, so if you don't mind that, or if you're in a particularly competitive pod, this is a strong card and you're going to be really happy with it, I guarantee. Number 12, Aether Channeler. 3 mana, 2 and a blue for 2/1 human wizard. When Aether Channeler enters the battlefield, choose one. Create a 1/1 bird creature token with flying, return another target non-land permanent to its owner's hand, or draw a card. So Aether Channeler is the ultimate flexibility. This card, to me, is like the new Mole Drifter. Mole Drifter used to be the shit. People would run in every deck and it was so good. Back before there was really good card draw in many colors, Mole Drifter was just great because you can play it as a 2/2 flyer that drew you 2 cards, or you could just play it like a divination. If you had ways to blink it was even better. This card is just, I never play Mole Drifter anymore. If I'm playing like a dedicated blink deck, maybe I'd put it in, but like even then there's just better options now. But Aether Channeler is different. Like this card has not been power crept and it's fairly new, so like I guess 2022 is not that new anymore, but it feels fairly recent. But this card is just really good. It always feels good to have this, and that's the mark of a good card. If I'm drawing it and I'm just like, yes, I'm so happy I drew this card, that's what this card feels like. If you haven't played it, like it looks fairly innocuous. Like all these effects are pretty medium, but just the utility, and I'd say like what you're going to do with this card is you'll probably create the bird token 1 out of 10 times or less. Right? If you're just desperate for a flying blocker or something like that, maybe you create the bird. But most of the time, I'd say it's 50-50 between bouncing another non-land permanent to its owner's hand or drawing a card. And the fact that you can just draw a card means that this is never dead, right? If there's nothing great to bounce or you just don't want to make an enemy right now, you just draw a card, and then it was a 3 mana cycler that gives you a 2/1 body. And you're probably playing this in deck that cares about blinks, but you don't need to be. Like this card just fits great. If you need more 3s, just works. And it works really well. And if you're playing human or wizard synergies, even better. Getting like double ETB of this, or if you have ways to reanimate it or just blink it over and over, it's just really good. And you'll always find a use for it. You'll always be happy to draw it. And I love cards like that. This is just so flexible and really generically good and just makes your deck better. Slot in any deck. It's really cheap too. It's like, under $1, or I'm not sure, but something pretty close to that. And it's not that powerful. No one's going to like stare daggers at you if you cast this card. It's just going to help you win games because it can deal with whatever situation presents itself. And that flexibility really translates to power in my book. Number 11, Volatile Storm Drake. 2 mana, 1 and a blue for a 3/2 Drake. It's got flying and hexproof from activated and triggered abilities. Weird. When Volatile Storm Drake enters, exchange control of it and target creature an opponent controls. If you do, you get 4 energy, and then you must sacrifice that creature, the one you stole, unless you pay an amount of energy equal to its mana value. So this is the much worse cousin of Gilded Drake, but Gilded Drake is a $300 reserve list card. So I'm listing this here as a concession to budget and the fact that most people, present company excluded, do not have access to a Gilded Drake, which is strictly better than this. But this is still excellent. Now, if you're asking me, Matt, don't I need to be playing energy for this to be good? No, you don't. This placement on the list at number 11 assumes that you're not playing energy. If you are playing energy, this is substantially better. But just coming down and being able to steal any 4-mana creature, or if you're up against someone's Blightsteel Colossus and you're like, shit, I just got to deal with this, you don't need to keep it. You can just steal it and then sacrifice it. The fact this has hexproof from activated and triggered abilities, you might say, well, that's an advantage over Gilded Drake, right? Actually, I think that's there to make this card worse. Believe it or not, because it means you can't blink it or like target it on the, it's harder to target it once your opponent steals it, because don't forget, you're not going to end up with this actual creature. You're going to end up with whatever you stole and they get this. So having it have this protection ability actually just makes it worse for you, because it's harder for you to just target it and you won't get back from them. Now you still can if you have something like Homeward Path, which is phenomenal with this card, but even without it, and even without energy, even without being in a blink deck or anything, this is just a great card. Great card. Slot this in literally any deck that has blue and you will love it. That's it. Now, if you don't want to be stealing people's stuff, then don't play it, because that's what you're doing, you know? But if you don't mind that, this card's just excellent. And is it as good as Gilded Drake? Not even close. Does that matter? No. It's going to perform the same function as Gilded Drake probably 80% of the time, and then the rest of the time it's still great. So don't beat yourself up if you don't have a Gilded Drake. Most people don't, and it's very expensive and it's not worth it. Like, unless you want to like really get into Magic and play competitive CEDH, I don't even know if it's a thing in CEDH, but Gilded Drake is not where I would recommend investing your money. There are millions of other things that can improve the consistency and power of your decks more than that. So proxy Gilded Drake or play Volatile Storm Drake, because it's still awesome. This card's really good. Before we get into the top 10, if you're enjoying this video, please take a quick second to help support me by clicking the like button. This tells YouTube that you're enjoying my content and helps share it out to others. Also, please drop me a subscription if you haven't already. Over half the people that watch my channel aren't subscribers, so it only takes you a second, doesn't cost you anything, and it's super helpful for me. I would really appreciate your consideration. And if you're liking my content, hit that notification bell so that you don't miss any videos, including the future ones of this series, which I'll be releasing over the next several months. My Discord server is free to join. The invite link is here, and I'll also include it in the video description and comments below. We've got a really active server, everything Commander, card discussion, spoilers, deck help, card show off, finance discussion, rules questions, memes, Spelltable games with me, you name it. It's an awesome server. We're growing every day. We're really active, and I look forward to seeing you there. Last thing before we get into the top 10, please consider supporting me on Patreon. If you're liking my content, you want to help me continue to do this and support my dream of eventually quitting my day job and opening my own LGS, Patreon's the best way to do that. You also get some awesome benefits, access to our Patreon only Discord channel, having your name and membership tier listed in the credits of each video, early access to some videos, deck help and analysis that is very detailed and in-depth. Got an example for you on the screen here. Other perks include 90-minute coaching sessions, an example of which you could see by clicking on the link in the top right here, and lots more. And it really helps support me and tells me that you appreciate what I'm doing here and you want to see more of it. So thank you very much for your consideration. I truly appreciate it so much. But let's get back to the video. It's time for the top 10. Number 10. Reality Shift. 1 and a blue for an instant. Exile target creature. Its controller manifests the top card of their library. Manifest means that they take the top card, they put it face down as a 2/2 creature, not a Cyberman, just a vanilla nothing creature. If it's a creature though, they can turn it face up at any speed by paying its mana cost. Now they don't get any ETBs if that's the case, but that could be a good thing for them. Extremely unlikely, but you know, some creatures have negative ETBs, and manifesting it, you could cheat it in. See Phyrexian Dreadnought, for example. If you manifest their Phyrexian Dreadnought, that's pretty bad luck for you, because now they can pay 1 mana, flip it into a 12/12 trample, and have no downside from that. So don't do that. But this card's just, it deals with so many things, right? Blue doesn't get a lot of exile a creature, so you got to take what you can get, and the downside of this is minimal. I mean, yes, they could manifest a good creature that they can then flip, but I'll tell you that like the number of times that happens, that I've seen someone flip their card from Reality Shift, it's got to be less than 10% of the time, maybe even less than 5% of the time. And even if they did do that, the chance of it being better than the threat that you dealt with is so low. This card is just so good. It's instant speed. speed. And another cool thing you can do with this is if an opponent is being all tryhard and playing something like a Vampiric Tutor, where they're looking for a card, putting it on top of their deck, you can really ruin their day by reality shifting their dork in response, and now they have to manifest that card that they just tutored for. Oops, is that what you wanted with that card you just tutored out? Oh, I hit your Smothering Tithe? No, you can't flip it by paying 4. You can only flip creatures. Sorry though. Good luck with that. And then drink the tears. Drink the delicious, delicious tears. Mmm, salty. Love this card. It's really good. Play it. You will be happy. I just basically slot this in every blue deck mostly, and it's kind of just an auto include. Throw this in, don't look back. It's that good. Number 9, Chain of Vapor. Not just for CEDH. This card rules 1 mana, instant, return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Then that permanent's controller may sacrifice a land. If they do, they get to copy Chain of Vapor and choose a new target for the copy. So in theory, this could go on for as long as people have lands to sacrifice. And as long as there are non-land permanents to target to bounce. But yeah, this could be cast 100 times in a turn, theoretically. Now, will that actually happen? Very unlikely. The most I've ever seen it copied, and again, granted, I don't play CDH. I think this card is more of a player in CDH, but I think it's very strong in any bracket. It's just, first of all, like I've mentioned this already, but like I love bounce spells, and a 1 mana bounce that can hit any non-land permanent, so good. Have you ever played your 6 mana commander and had it bounce for 1? It feels so bad. You're like, oh my god, I just spent my entire turn casting something for 6, and now it's in my hand again. I feel like I just got time walk for 1 mana at instant speed, you know? And what are they gonna do? Sack a land and bounce one of your things in spite? Then they're even more behind. So like, excellent removal. But then this card has so many tricks. You can bounce your own things as many times as you want, because if you're the controller, you get the option to sack land. Is that good? Sometimes. You'll know when it is, trust me. Like, this card is just so tricksy. Another really nasty and fun thing you can do is, let's say there's a like board-wide threat that's just sitting out there and like everyone knows it has to be dealt with, right? Someone's got a Shelter of the Apocalypse, which is annoying everyone, but it's not that big of a threat. But then this other guy plays, you know, a Rhystic Study or a Smothering Tithe, and you're like, okay, well, that has to be dealt with because that's just going to lose us the game here, right? Or, you know, something else. So you know that that thing has to be bounced. You can bounce the Shieldred, though, and it's possible that the Shieldred player is like, oh, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to sack a land and deal with the, like, thing that is a threat to everyone. But then it's their fault, not yours. And if they do make the right play, which is to begrudgingly sack a land and then retarget the Smothering Tithe or whatever it is, then I guess they could spite it back at you. They could sack a land, target one of your things, and then put the onus on you to target the nasty thing that someone else has. But that's the fun of this card. Now, hopefully you're starting to see why this is such a great card, and this makes for great stories. It's just an ultra powerful effect that has a lot of variance and can create amazing stories and fun situations, and I think this card should be played more often, and I think it's really, really fun. So, good combination of fun, power, and, you know, an affordable cost, at least mana-wise. I think it's a quite expensive card relative to its rarity. You know, for an uncommon, I think it's something like a $10 uncommon, so don't be shocked when you see that, but it's that expensive for a reason because it's really cool. Number 8, Treachery. The only card that I snuck on here from the reserve list, actually a semi-reasonable price, I think, for a reserve list card that is so strong. And you can get copies that are in like moderately played condition for around $25-$30, which to me is a steal. This card is OP. 5 mana, 3 and double blue for an aura, enchant creature. When Treachery enters, untap up to 5 lands. So cost 5, but then you untap 5 lands. So it's free or better. If you have a bounce land, then all of a sudden you're netting mana and shenanigans can ensue. You control enchanted creature. So, hey, guess what? Remember we paid 7 with Agent of Treachery to steal someone's creature? Well, would you rather pay 0? Because that's what Treachery allows you to do. Now, I should warn you that if they give their thing hexproof or something like that, then they'll fizzle the Treachery and you won't get to untap your lands. So definitely watch out for that, and don't like play directly into a green or white player's open mana and sly grin. But if you play this carefully and land it at the right time, it is a haymaker to end all haymakers. Such a broken card that does so much more than just stealing a creature. The untapping lands is just so much power in a color that doesn't really get mana advantage very easily. So I can't talk this card up enough. It's so good. And if you play it like I do in decks that have ways to flash it in, oh, the power, you know, all of a sudden you have like so many lands untapped, extra mana, you know, you control a surprise blocker. The sky's the limit. This card's so cool. Plus, look at the art. Love the art. absolutely incredible. I love the old school art, and this is a prime example of a great one. Oh, and if you have ways to copy enchantments or copy permanents, whew, this is a good one to copy. I tell you what. Number 7, Submerge. 5 mana, 4 and a blue for an instant, but if an opponent controls a forest and you control an island, you may play Submerge without paying its mana cost. What? Okay, so instead of 5, we get to pay 0? Yeah, sign me up. Okay, what is the condition though? Well, we need an island. That's gonna happen. An opponent needs a forest. Now, do me a favor and tell me the last time you did not play against a green player in a game of Commander. Oh wait, good luck. I play this card in a ton of decks. If you've watched my channel for any amount of time, you've seen me cast this card. It's one of my favorite cards ever, and I play it all over the place because it's free interaction. It's not a game changer. It shouldn't not be a game changer. I'm not suggesting it should, but this card is just so good, and I never see it, except for myself. It's devastating for opponents to have their creature put on top of their deck when they weren't expecting it at instant speed for 0 mana. And does an opponent control a forest? Like 99% of the time. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I also always run this in decks that have green also, because I'm then playing Yavimaya Cradle of Growth, and then even if I'm in that extremely rare situation where I'm not up against a green player, then everyone's lands are forests anyway. So get wrecked, Mardu players. I absolutely love this card. Not my favorite card on this list. There's one, it's actually somewhat similar that I would prefer, but I am absolutely in love with this card, and it's so perfect, so good. Even the one time in hundreds of games that I had to pay 5 for it, it still doesn't even feel that bad. It's just like, it feels pretty bad, don't get me wrong, but I still cast it for 5. So this card's great. And if you target someone's commander, I'd say like 75% of the time they'll just put it in the command zone, which I think is wrong, by the way, but they're worried, they think you're gonna mill it or something, in which case they could just put it in the command zone then. So if you get targeted with this, just put it on top. Although, like, a lot of times, I should warn you, a lot of times when I'm playing this card, well, I should back up because I play this all the time, but frequently, or when I'm always playing this card is when I'm playing a deck that cares about the top of my opponent's library, like my Paco and Halden deck that I've been playing recently, for example. This is not quite as good as some other decks because, like, you can't steal creatures, but you can blank someone's creature that they put on top thinking like, okay, I'll just draw it next turn, and you're like, no, I'll just snipe it with my doggy. Sorry, bro, that thing's exiled. Get wrecked. This card rules. Number 6. Resculpt. 1 and a blue, instant, exile target artifact or creature. Its controller creates a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token. Why do I have this higher on the list than Reality Shift? You might be asking yourself. Well, I don't know why you're asking me this. This card's just way better than Reality Shift. I know I'm in the minority of thinking that, I believe. I never see people play this card. I see people play Reality Shift all the time, and I'm pretty sure I've heard people say Reality Shift is better. I think that's crazy. This card is substantially better. Why? Well, it gives them a 4/4 instead of a 2/2, Matt. Like, how's that better? A 4/4 is nothing. You ever get given a 4/4 vanilla in Commander? Who cares? That is like completely meaningless. In terms of ignorable things, is a 4/4 better than a 3/3 like from Pongify or from Generous Gift or whatever? Yes, it is. But is getting your One Ring exiled a bad thing? And is it worth a 4/4 in exchange for that? No. This can hit artifacts. Are there any nasty artifacts in Commander? I haven't checked recently, but I think there are probably a few. And being able to exile them seems like a good thing. I don't know. I just started playing, so, like, who knows? Yeah, this can hit any artifact or creature. That's massive. That makes this better than Reality Shift 100%. There's no comparison, in my opinion. The 4/4 they get versus the Manifest. The Manifest can, like, get you sometimes. Like, the 4/4 never can really get you. Like, okay, I guess there's times where, like, if they have a Garruk's Uprising in play, or, I don't even know if that triggers on tokens, but, like, I play this card 100% of the time, and I play Reality Shift only sometimes. So that's just my opinion, but I'm right. Number 5, we're in the top 5. Hullbreaker Horror, 7 mana, 5 and double blue for a 7/8 Kraken Horror. Horrific. It's got flash. It can't be countered. And whenever you cast a spell, choose up to 1. Up to 1? Weird. Why? I guess you don't have to choose. That's the point. Choose 0 or 1. Either return a spell you don't control to its owner's hand. That means from the stack, because it's targeting a spell. Things on the board, permanents, etc. are not spells. Things are only spells on the stack. So it can either bounce a spell from the stack, or it can bounce a non-land permanent. So you're telling me I'm getting a 7/8 for 7 mana. It's got flash. It can't be countered. And anytime I cast a spell, I get to bounce either a spell off the stack or thing off the board. Yeah, this card is broken. I don't play it very often because it's too good. This card is oppressive and it will win you games. If you want to win games, play this card. Now, I find it to be a little too easy mode or a little too high powered for what I normally play, which is optimized bracket 3, but you can play this in bracket 3. It's not a game changer. I just find it to be too powerful and it's very hard, if not impossible, to interact with. Basically, you have to deal with it right then because if they untap, then it's over. Then they can cast a spell. You know, if you're playing this in your deck, you have a bunch of instants, probably cheap stuff. You know, if you've got a Submerge lying in wait, it's so good with Hullbreaker Horror. But why, Matt? Like, can't you just bounce the stuff with Hullbreaker Horror? Well, yeah, if you have mana, but you can cast Submerge for free and then like bounce any removal that's coming at Hullbreaker Horror. And then what do? Like, if you can bounce the removal and get through their interaction and untap with this, the game's over. And this I'm not even going to talk about because I don't play infinites. I don't like support a lot of infinites at bracket 3, but there's a bunch of infinites with this card. You basically just need some 0 mana rocks or some like mana positive rocks. Like, imagine if, I know you can't play 2 soul rings, but imagine if you had 2 soul rings. You can cast a soul ring, tap it for 2 mana, you're up a mana, right? Because you paid 1 and it generates 2. Then you cast your other soul ring, or it could be any, it could be a soul ring and a Mishra's Bauble, which costs 0. Cast soul ring, tap it for 2. Cast Mishra's Bauble, bounce your soul ring. Cast soul ring, tap it for 2. Bounce your Mishra's Bauble. Repeat ad infinity. And now you have infinite colorless mana. And now you get to bounce infinite things because you can do that again, or I don't know how that works, but like even in a non-infinite deck, this card is broken, and I would caution you about playing it. If you're already like the arch enemy of your group, or you already feel like you're winning too often, don't play this card because it's only going to win you more games. It's really, really good. Like, did this have to have flash? That's the scariest part, because you could be holding 7 mana up, and then if no one does anything you needed to like Psych Rift for, then you just flash this in, and they have that window to deal with it. But if they don't have answers right then you're untapping, and then it's GG, boys. This card is broken. Numbers 4. Yes, I said numbers. There's 2 cards here. I couldn't decide. My personal favorite of these 2 is Slip Out the Back. I love this card. I think these cards are equally good. So let's talk about them. Slip Out the Back is 1 blue mana for an instant. Put a +1 counter on target creature. It phases out. Well, Matt, this isn't removal. Isn't it, though? But I don't want to give a +1 counter to my opponent's creature. Don't worry, you're going to win that turn. You know, you play this when you're about to swing in for lethal, or you need to deal with that pesky creature that's stopping you from playing the game, or, you know, a myriad other things that this could come up for. Yes, you're playing this in your deck as a protection spell, but I would say the number of times I end up using Slip Out the Back as removal versus protection is more than half the time, believe it or not. I wouldn't have expected that when I started playing Commander. I would put this in as a protection spell and then use it as a removal spell, at least I thought, when absolutely necessary. But now it feels almost like the opposite. And if you've played against me, you've seen me do it a million times, and this always feels like a blowout when it happens because it's 1 mana and it's like, okay, that thing's gone. And if it had equipment on it, like, those equipment are gone. So it's not even like they can re-equip them to something else. It phases out with anything that was attached to it. And yeah, they get it back on their next untap step, but sometimes the game is just over before then. And that's the power of this card. And then when you need to protect your own thing, great. This is a really, really strong protection spell because it stops against Farewell. It stops against Cyclonic Rift. Like, it stops anything. Phasing stops against anything except them just killing you. So much love for this card. I have 3 or 4 signed copies of it, and I own over 10 or 20 foil versions because it's just it's like a really cheap card, and it's my favorite. This card goes in every blue deck I play, no matter what. Unless I literally cannot play it for some reason, like I'm playing Companion, this goes in the deck, and it's always good. March of Swirling Mist is X and blue for an instant. As an additional cost to cast the spell, you may exile any number of blue cards from your hand. This spell costs 2 generic mana less for each card exiled this way. So you can just pay for it normally, which is like I could put 3 mana into X, pay 4 total, and get to phase out X, up to X creatures phase out. I should probably read what it actually does. But if you don't have the mana to pay, well, let's say you don't have 4 mana and you only have 1, you can instead pitch 1 blue card to have X be 2, 2 blue cards to have X be 4. Are blue instants that allow you to pitch a card as part of the cost pretty good historically? I think they might be. Ever heard of Force of Will, Force of Negation? This is in the same league as those cards. Is it as good as those cards? Hard to say. Doesn't do the same thing. But this card is game winning. March of Swirling Mist if you haven't played with or against it, I don't think it's very easy to understand how good this card is. So take it from me, try this card. It's very inexpensive. Get yourself a copy, try it. Just put it in one of your decks. Swap it out for Pungify. I don't recommend doing that, but like if you just want to like not think about it, just try that and see how it plays out for you. This card can clear an entire board of blockers. It can save your entire board from a board wipe. It can do all the things I just described with Slip Out the Back, but to the X power, literally. So these cards are probably responsible for me winning more games of Magic than possibly any other card on this list. So maybe I should have ranked them higher, who knows? But here they are at number 4, and well deserved. All right, on to number 3, which is, if you didn't already guess, the card I was referencing earlier when I was talking about Submerge, and is my favorite card. I don't know if it's my favorite card of all time, but it is definitely in the top 3 of my favorite cards of all time. And it's such a simple effect, and it's a common. Snap. 2 mana, 1 and a blue, for an instant. Return target creature to its owner's hand. Untap up to 2 lands. That's it. 2 simple sentences, 1 ultra powerful effect. 0 mana, bounce any creature. That's the baseline of this card. But if you're playing any sort of broken lands, it's even better. Even if you're just playing the bounce lands, which, by the way, I love the bounce lands. People who say the bounce lands are bad, they're bad. Just my opinion, don't at me. But bounce lands are nuts. I won't even get into that in this video. We can talk about that later. But this makes bounce lands even better, because now if you have one of them, instead of this costing 0, it costs -1, right? Because you tapped an island and a bounce land. You generated 3 mana. Then you cast Snap. You untap those same 2 lands, boom, you're +1 mana, right? If you have an Ichthos, lol, don't even get me started. But at the very baseline, basically being able to cast this for free enables so many decks. Decks that care about casting more than 1 spell a turn. Decks that just are constrained on mana because they're not in green. Like, this is the kind of tempo play that you've been missing from your decks. I kid you not. If you don't have one of these and you've never played it, put it in a deck where you've been struggling on mana, or you just feel like it could... The fact this is in blue is what makes it so powerful. And the reason I say that is, like, what does blue do the best? It draws cards. And if you're already drawing cards really well, you really just want more and more cheap effects. In 2025 Magic, which is the year we're in right now, card draw is everywhere. Everyone's drawing so many cards. That's not a concern in most decks anymore. Every color has access to really strong card draw. What you're going to find yourself constrained on most of the time is mana, not cards. And that's where a card like this really comes into play. Because when it's like I was saying with Submerge or any of the bounce spells I talked about on this list, when someone spends 6 mana on their commander and you can deal with it for nothing, you're so ahead of them on tempo that, like, what are they supposed to do? They're already so far behind. You know, games of Magic are won and lost based on who spends the most mana over the course of the game. And this card is going to help you spend more mana, and it's going to hurt them in terms of the mana they can spend, because now they're having to recast something that they just cast. So hopefully that makes sense. This card is just nuts. You can use it to rescue your own creature in a pinch too, which is I love. And yeah, I just can't, there's nothing that much more to say. This card is just so good. Play it. You'll love it. Number 2, Sink into Stupor / Soporific Springs. Sink into Stupor is 3 mana, 1 and double blue for an instant. Return target spell or non-land permanent an opponent controls to its owner's hand. And on the backside is an untapped blue land. You have to pay 3 life to have it come in untapped. Does that matter? No. If you're new to Magic, or if you're just very risk averse, I would encourage you to get over yourself. 3 life is nothing. You win the game whether you're at 1 or you're at 30. So use your life as a resource and play this untapped. Even if you don't know what you're going to draw into and you just like have a chance of maybe needing it, play it untapped. It doesn't matter. You know how many times the 3 life's going to matter compared to the times you don't have an untapped blue land when you just found out you needed it? I'm not saying there won't be times where paying the 3 life will end up losing you the game, but I'm saying more often you will lose the game from having played this tapped versus having played it untapped. Okay? So that's all I'm going to say about the land side. And the reason this spell is so powerful, and you know the other MH3 MDFC are so powerful as well, is not because of their effect or their rate, because both of those are mediocre, right? 3 mana for this effect is not good, but 3 mana for this effect / an untapped land whenever you need it, ultra powerful. It's, you know, if you watched my white removal video, I said the same thing when talking about Witch Enchanter. 4 mana for Witch Enchanter, terrible rate, right? This one's actually not even that bad. 3 mana for this effect is not that unreasonable compared to like Witch Enchanter, which is terrible. 4 mana for that, like, ew. That's one of the reasons like this one is the best MDFC of the 5. They're all good though. I really like the red one too. We'll talk about that later. I'm getting ahead of myself. This card's just great. It's going to make your deck like X% more consistent if you play it. Just swap it out for a land. These can be a straight swap out for a land, and that's what makes them so good. The ones that come in tapped, I don't like. You know, Balagad Recovery I'll occasionally play. The red Fling one I'll occasionally play. But like this one, always play. Always, always play. It turns imperfect games better, you know? This is a land when you need it, and a bounce spell when you don't need it, and that is uber powerful. And here it is, the number 1 best removal spell in blue. Just kidding, it's actually 2. Pongify and Rapid Hybridization, you know them, you love them. They're the number 1 in my book. This was tough. Honestly, like all of the top 5/top 10/top 20, maybe not 20, but like many of the top 10 I love, and they're just so good. But you can't argue with the efficiency, the ease of access to these cards. They can deal with anything, their instant speed. Like, these are just the bread and butter of blue. Honestly, like, it's funny, like, you know, when you think like what color gets the best removal, you know, I think it would make sense to say white, black, maybe even red. You don't think of blue, but man, look at these blue removal spells we just went through. Hit after hit after hit, and so efficient. Efficiency is the name of the game. In case I didn't make that abundantly clear by having like 10 bounce spells on this list and a bunch of stuff that is free to cast in certain conditions, Magic is all about tempo nowadays. It's hard to get out of that mindset if you're an old school Commander player, because there used to be very little card advantage in Commander, or what there was not so efficient. But now everything draws you cards. It's really easy to draw. So effects like this only get more powerful as time goes on because they're only 1 mana and they destroy anything. There's no condition. They can't be regenerated. What the hell is regenerated? Just kidding. Like, I know what it is, but like you never see it. You know, these aren't exile, sure, but they're 1 mana. I mean, how could you go wrong? Like, these are the spells that you love to draw, you know, unless you're like dying for card advantage. But like I said, you're in blue, you're already drawing lots of cards. You just want cheap interaction. Being able to fill your curve when you couldn't spend all your mana perfectly is ultra powerful. And that's what makes these and other single mana or free to cast removals so strong. Love these cards. Can't say enough good things about them. Play them more if you're not playing them, because they are just nuts. And the 3/3s you're giving away, who cares? It's practically like they're not there. Like, think of the times where the 3/3 you've given out has had like tremendous impact on the game versus removing some huge threat. So what did you think? Did I miss anything that you would have included? Do you agree with the order in which I ranked things? Let me know in the comments, and stay tuned. I'll be doing more of these videos, continuing with removal spells for the other colors, black, red, green, and then moving on to some other categories. So let me know what you thought of the video. Did you enjoy it? Are you looking forward to the next ones? I love to hear from you. Thanks for watching. Matt from Surf City TCG signing off. By supporting me on Patreon, you help me toward my dream of quitting my day job and opening my own local game store. You can earn credits that you can use toward in-depth and detailed deck reviews, one-on-one coaching sessions, custom tokens, and more. Thanks for your consideration. I truly appreciate your support.